ladies and gentlemen, Alberta's pride. Hey,
Hey, good morning, everyone. On a bright Saturday morning. Good to see everyone. Yeah, we got some good information on the latest Canadian-U.S. trade deal that's going on here right now. Lots of stuff going on. Hopefully you're doing well this morning. Yep.
He's calling out the haters with truth in his lines, talking about the world from the left to the right. Tommy's got the mic, keeping it tight.
That's right. Oh yeah.
The stream. He's dodging all the trolls like a champion dream. From Alberta's heart, he's lighting up the night. Tommy Temper's truth is his guiding light. With a wink and a grin, he's taking on the fight, spilling all the tea in the YouTube life. From the hot tub to the Rockies, he's living it free. Tommy Temper's the streamer we all want to see. Oh, Tommy Temper.
Let's go. Let's get this thing going. Yeah, okay, so there's been some stuff going on between the United States and Canada. There's a trade deal going on. Of course, Trump wants to tariff every nation, right? Any nation that sells anything to the United States, Trump wants to tariff those goods flowing into the United States so that the goods will be produced within the United States. It's a pretty simple concept, and us up here in Canada are also caught in the whole thing because we've been used to a free trade agreement with the United States, and now we're going to be subject to tariffs on things coming into the United States, even though we're probably the United States' closest trading partner. Probably next would be Mexico, being right on the borders of the United States. And we're in that situation where, up here in Canada, we're used to free trade with Canada. We have a free trade agreement called CUSMA, and Trump wants to get rid of that CUSMA agreement and bring in some new tariffs on goods flowing into the United States from Canada. And they're in trade talks right now with Canada. The United States is, and Canada is in trade talks with Trump, with the United States. But the the trade talks have broken down, and we're kind of on the defensive here now. Where you've got provinces in Canada that have basically stopped putting American booze on the shelves. You've got problems with Canada being unable to sell lumber, aluminum, steel, things like that into the United States because of the basic tariffs that are going on. And right now, basically, the deal is off. Carney, Canada, has broken off talks with the United States, and we're in a situation now where it's not a good situation at all. So the latest is Carney has just concluded an update. He was speaking to the media after suspension of the Canada-U.S. trade talks. And we have where he was just talking just minutes ago. Hey, Troy, good to see you. Thanks a lot for popping in there. Turn on that couple of switches in the back there if you can. I don't know if you can. And let me just go first of all right away to the conference, whatever that Carney had with the media. And let's listen to what Carney had to say about the whole thing. This is coming to us just with a very slight delay from, I don't know where he is, from in Ottawa. Let's hear what Mark Carney has to say about the trade deal with Trump.
Bonjour tout le monde. I'd like to take this opportunity to update Canadians on developments in our trade negotiations with the United States. I'm going to go through why we're walking away from a bad deal and what comes next. Pendant une bonne partie de notre histoire.
There you go. So right off the bat, Carney is calling it a bad deal, i.e., Trump is not going to give free trade without tariffs to Canada at all. So, we know that. Everybody knows that. There's no country in the world that has got free trade with the United States anymore. Trump is tariffing everybody.
Les Canadiens et les Canadiens.
We shouldn't expect any less than what any other country is
sur des
getting,
vents commerciaux favorables.
or any more.
Une relation stable avec les États-Unis, un accès de plus en plus ouvert au marché américain et des règles que les deux pays
Unfortunately, we don't
comprennent
have
et
French to
respectent.
English translation,
C'est bon.
but luckily he
N'ont
doesn't
pas
speak
simplement
much French.
changé de direction. Le
Change the
climat
direction.
a aussi changé. We can't control the storm that blows in from Washington. We can, however, chart
No, I like how he calls it the storm that blows in from Washington. He's so negative on the whole thing right away. It's like, maybe Trump might be watching this, and like Canada, and he's whipped up everyone, the provinces and the people in Canada, to basically put a hate on to the United States, and and to do things like take booze off the shelves, to piss off the Americans. Canada is doing whatever they can to like poke, and then they want to go to the table and get some kind of a deal after poking Trump. Trump has a memory for what, when he calls Trudeau, Governor Trudeau, and, belittles people in Canada, it's because of what Canadians say to the Americans, right? To what Carney and the rest of the premiers, well, not all the premiers, but a lot of the premiers, call Americans, and how they call them out. And you don't do that. If you want a trade deal with someone, the worst thing to do is to call them out. And he's doing that right here. He still wants a deal, and he steps up to the podium and is right away putting down the Americans. Like this is absolutely ridiculous what he's actually up to here.
mettre chez nous
Listen to this.
et le partenaire par excellence à l'étranger. For over a year, Canada has worked intensively and in good faith with the United States to negotiate a new comprehensive trade deal. We've been pragmatic, patient, and persistent.
Well, what I see here is I don't see much at all. I see Canada holding a hard line and not working out some kind of a deal and waiting to the last minute, and then capitulating and just plain saying, well, this isn't a good deal. We're pulling out of it, Meanwhile, Trump has already said, hey, we're going to slap you with a 50% tariff on a whole bunch of things if you guys don't work out some kind of a deal. Well, he didn't work out any kind of a deal. And you know what? He became prime minister, and the very first thing he said was that he's the only guy that is able to negotiate with Trump. He will make a deal. Yeah, Mark Carney, you didn't do dick all. You did a bad job for us up here in Canada. Shame on you.
We pursued every opportunity to reach an agreement that protects Canadian workers and their families, that strengthens our economy, and that respects Canadian sovereignty. We've been under no illusions. We recognized from the start that America has changed. Early last year in this room, I observed that the decades-long process of steadily increasing integration between our economies was over. Our government understood before many that America would transform all of its commercial relationships, that it would put a series of tariffs on its closest allies and use economic integration as a weapon.
Trump, the United, yeah, you're right, Brett. At the end of the day, they do need our oil, natural gas, electricity, whatever, to even operate. We have become integrated with some of those things. And you know what? Trump is not tariffing those things. at least not to a great deal. Where the tariffs are coming in is on other things like lumber, aluminum, steel, copper, things like that. And because a lot of those things can be produced in the States, they don't necessarily need them in Canada. Same thing as automobiles. They don't need Canadian automobiles. They want to build the cars in the States. That's what Trump wants to do, is to bring the jobs back home.
We recognize that sometimes its signature was written in pencil. We worked in that context to try to strike a fair deal on which Canadian businesses and workers could rely. Our goal has always been to get the best deal for Canadians, never a deal at any price or on any time frame. Last month, when the United States announced another round of unjustified tariffs, I gave our negotiating team a new mandate to seek a fair deal negotiated in good faith. Because I believe that people on the ground, on both sides of our border, want this relationship to work. The bonds between Canadians.
Of course we do, but understand what Trump is doing. Trump does not want free trade. Trump, in his mind, believes that free trade with any company means that countries are actually taking advantage of the United States, okay? And when you have an imbalance of trade, i.e., a country is selling more stuff to the United States than what the United States is selling to that country, then that trade imbalance means money is flowing from the United States to that other country, which is not a good situation. When we're running a country and you have that going on with all of the countries around the world, all of the money is flowing out of your country and everyone else is becoming enriched because of that money flow. And remember, let's face it, America, or United States, it has more money than any other country, disposable income, to be able to buy stuff, right? So Trump is simply saying, hey, I'm going to tariff every country. I don't think there's one country in the world that is getting away with zero tariffs with the United States. You can see all of the deals that have been made with any country around the world results in, if the deal is made, zero tariffs for American products going into that country, and Trump imposing tariffs on goods coming into the United States. Why is it that Canada should expect anything different than Trump has done to any other country in the world? That's the point here. And of course, Carney and Canada is like, no, we had a free trade deal with you, the Kuzma deal, and we want to keep that deal, and we want zero tariffs on products coming from Canada. So if you're not going to give that to us, well, then we're not going to make a deal with you. That's where we're at here right now. And you have to understand, what is the lowest tariff that Trump is going to put on Canadian goods? And you know what? We have to suck it up and go with it. If it's going to result in the loss of jobs in Canada, it is. But tariffs of, let's say, 25% is a lot better than where we're sitting right now at tariffs of 50% on a lot of our goods. That's what's happening without making a deal. It's like foolish to not make a deal. You got to make a deal of some kind, even if it's, even if it's so-called a bad deal. Well, there is no such thing as a good deal when Trump is going to end up having tariffs against goods coming from Canada. It's life. Suck it up. Let's move on. Let's make a deal.
Canadians and Americans are long and they remain strong. A mutually beneficial trade agreement is possible. One that respects our sovereignty, one that builds on our complementary strengths, one that lowers costs for families on both sides of the border, one that creates good jobs for our workers. Canada has always worked towards these goals, even while America's attention and dedication to them have wavered. We've consistently proposed long-term partnerships, while America has often pursued short-term transactions. The gap between partnership and competitor, unfortunately, has remained too wide in recent days. So last evening, I instructed our negotiators to return to Ottawa. We cannot accept what they've offered, and we will not give what they've asked. Over the past year, the U.S. has imposed.
Yeah, but it's like we're the little dog. We're like the beta dog, and the United States, Trump is the alpha dog. And you know what? We're small. We're a small trading partner to the United States. There, a lot of what we're talking about selling to the United States, they can do within their own country. They can produce their own steel. They can produce their own aluminum. They can produce their own softwood lumber. All of the copper, you name it. There are some things that we do have that the United States needs, like critical minerals, and there's millions of barrels of oil that are flowing to the United States from Alberta on a daily basis. But they've already worked out what those tariffs are going to be on oil and gas and things like that. We have to expect that if there are things that they can manufacture, whatever, dig out of the ground in the United States themselves, they may not need those things that are coming from Canada. We just have to realize that, and you're dealing with an alpha dog, Donald Trump, and he's the one that's in charge. He's the one that makes a deal, and you can go withering away back. Like we went back to Ottawa. We left the United States. We terminated our talks with them, and we've got the tail between our legs, and we're slithering back to Canada because we didn't get what we wanted. That's not the way trade deals work at all, because that's why we're now hit with the 50% tariff on all of those things that we don't want to make a deal with. Like, what kind of a deal is that?
A series of tariffs that violate its commitment under our agreement with them in Mexico, so-called CUSMA. The United States has continually changed their rationale for these actions.
He keeps continuously talking about CUSMA. CUSMA is over. Free trade. The free trade agreement is over. Trump wants a new trade deal with Canada and with Mexico. We have to negotiate. We have to continue negotiating. We can't just say, "Oh, we stopped negotiating and we come back to Canada. We don't have a deal." That is no deal. That's walking away from the table. And they're the ones that make the rules. Like, we're just a little player in this world economic situation that we're in. We're screwed if we do something like that. Like, what the hell's the matter with Carney? He said he's the one that can talk to Trump. He knows he's a business. I don't know if Carney's a businessman at all. He's like more of a politician, ex-banker that did bad for the UK, and now he's doing bad for Canada, printing like dollars like they're going out of style. Our dollar is worth less. Like, our dollar was worth 73 cents when he came into power, Mark Carney. Now it's worth 70 cents. Printing money like crazy, spending money like crazy that we don't have, putting us into the whole country into bankruptcy, and he can't even make a deal with Trump. Runs away with his tail between his legs. Carney, what the hell's the matter with you?
To taxes on U.S. tech giants, to certification of U.S. aircraft, to the sharing of tolls of a bridge that Canada built and paid for, to our dairy policy, to provincial decisions not to sell American alcohol during the trade war, to a television advertisement that quoted Ronald Reagan, to smoke from wildfires.
Yeah. He's talking about all the shit that pisses off Trump. Yeah, smoke from the wildfires. I know Trump talked about that and said, "Hey, you Canadians, do some. Hey, buy some bombers, buy some water bombers, and put some water on those fires, because the smoke is bothering us in the States." He didn't like that ad with Reagan, which was out of context ad and should never have been made. Taking the booze off the shelves. Bad idea. Pissed off the American. Everything he's talking about here are things that Canada did that piss off the States.
Well, they threatened our communities. Another prominent justification for U.S. tariffs has been their claim that since the United States runs, quote, a trade deficit with Canada, we were ripping them off. Also a quote. But the U.S.'s narrow...
Which is true, because, and most of it, actually, if you look into the numbers, and I haven't looked completely into the numbers, but I think a lot of the trade deficit is because we're selling them a lot of oil, right? 400 million barrels a day is going in the pipeline down to the States. They're spending a lot of money on oil. So the money is flowing to Canada. That's what he's talking about, the trade deficit. We are selling them goods, cars, and things like that, which, put it all together. Yeah, it ends up that the Americans are buying more stuff off of us than we're buying off of them. That's the trade deficit that he's talking about.
Narrow merchandise trade deficit only exists because the U.S. buys so much of its energy from Canada. Canada fuels American growth, supplying 99% of their natural gas imports, 85% of their electricity imports, 60% of their crude oil imports. I don't think they want us to stop sending any of that energy.
Oh, is this a threat? Is he now talking about a threat, like cutting off electricity, natural gas, and oil to the United States? Is that what this is all about? Where now he's saying, and you know what? And Doug Ford tried to get Danielle Smith in Alberta to cut off oil, or to threaten to cut off oil to the United States. And Danielle Smith said, no hope in hell that we're going to do that. I know that Doug Ford threatened to cut off electricity to the States, whatever. Is that what he's talking about here now? Like, okay, we know that those things exist. We know that we're selling the United States those things, and we know that there's a trade deficit because of money flowing to Canada because they're using our energy, and of course that will continue. That is a bargaining chip. But, to try and threaten that, that's, and he didn't say that he's going to cut those things off, but he is pointing out that we are supplying a lot of things to the United States. And Trump should be looking at that as a bargaining chip to say, hey, you know what? We don't want you guys charging us more for all of those things, taxing all of those things more, or doing anything with that arrangement. And, I don't think Trump is trying to tax all of those things that he's talking about. It's other things that they can produce within the United States themselves, like cars, automobiles, goods, bauxite, aluminum, copper, steel, lumber, things like that. Those are the things that Trump wants to tax because he wants more of that production to happen within the United States. It's quite obvious as to what's going on.
And if you look more broadly at the comprehensive U.S.-Canada trade balance, which includes the many services from finance to entertainment that we buy from the United States, that shows a persistent American trade surplus.
No, and Brett says, why do you insist on sucking U.S. ass, Tommy? You're too quick to bend over and just let the U.S. screw us and take advantage of us. Why not just move and go stateside? You're not the first person that said that to me. No, understand what is happening with the United States. Understand Donald Trump. Understand what's going through his mind. Understand his negotiation strategies, okay, and the way he thinks. Like, I've read the book, The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump, and I understand what's going through his head. I'm not bending over. I'm just saying, they want something. They want more. They feel like they've been taken advantage of, of those things by other countries. And he's tariffing everybody around the world, everybody. And he's wanting a free trade deal going to to Canada, for example, to be able to sell goods to Canada without us putting tariffs on those goods. And he's done the same thing with every country around the world. Just go and see what country in the world has gotten the free trade deal both ways with the United States. No country. So, whether you like it or not, you have to capitulate to the alpha dog. Trump wants more, right? He wants more jobs within the United States. And that's what his tariffs are all about. You have to understand that. You're not going to get a free trade deal. We had a free trade deal. Like Mark Carney has already said many, many times, this is a new world order, okay? He understands that the deal that we had with the United States is over, and we have to negotiate a new deal. And the new deal, by the end of the day, when it's all done, is going to be tariffs on goods coming from Canada and no tariffs for goods flowing from the United States, just like he's done with every other country around the world. Do I like it? No, of course I don't like it. I'm not sucking Trump's ass. I'm just pointing out this is what the deal is that Trump wants. And Carney is going, no, he's hardlining it. He's going, no, we don't want to sign any kind of a deal at all if Trump is going to put tariffs on Canadian goods, basically is what he's saying. So Trump is going, okay, well, we'll just give you 50% tariffs then, you know, like, you don't want to deal with us? We'll pay 50%. And Carney is walking away, and you know, I don't know what the hell is going through Carney's mind. Well, let's listen.
Most fundamentally, trade is about building mutual strength, creating a relationship that benefits both countries. For example, Canada is the largest customer for U.S. cars. In fact, we buy more American-built cars and trucks than the United States.
Yes, and Trump doesn't want any tariffs at all on cars coming to Canada. Just like cars going to Germany, cars going to China, cars going to Japan, cars going anywhere. He wants zero tariffs on goods flowing to Canada. You're right. We do buy a lot of cars from the US of A, but we're also buying Chinese exploding spy vehicles too, you know, like, come on, which of course Trump doesn't like that at all. He doesn't like some competition from Chinese stuff coming in. You know, myself personally, I don't think we should cozy up to China at all. I think we should work out better deals with the United States and not be allowing, you know, Chinese cars to come in here at 5% tariffs or something like that. Like really, honestly, it will, bringing in all those Chinese cars will absolutely kill any kind of an auto industry in Canada. That's for sure.
Kingdom, Japan, and China combined. It's the same for American steel products. Canada is also the largest customer for 26 U.S. states and a top 3 customer for 45 U.S. states. Last year, Americans sold almost $600 billion in goods and services to Canadians. That's more than $1.6 billion every single day. On the other hand, Canadian exports to the United States lower costs for American families. In contrast, tariffs are taxes. Taxes which are ultimately paid by U.S. consumers. Well, the United States has imposed a seemingly endless stream of tariffs and threatened more. Canada has, by contrast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. The UK got 10% tariffs. Well, on what? On what? On what things? What things are the UK selling? You know, what do they get 10% tariffs? You know, like, this is kind of all over the board. But yeah, you have to negotiate. You know that Trump is not going to give zero tariffs. You know that, Chris. You know that for sure. But, you know, Canada expects zero tariffs, right? That's what Canada wants. They want to be able to sell the United States everything that we manufacture, produce, or dig out of the ground, and sell that to the States without any tariffs whatsoever. We have to negotiate. Maybe we can get the tariffs down to 10%, but, you know, walking away from the table and not negotiating is not going to get us anything. It'll get us 50% tariffs. We know that much for sure.
Taken several steps in good faith to try to find compromise and secure a comprehensive deal in the best interests of both Canadians and Americans. Nos négociateurs ont cherché à non seulement réduire les droits de douane, mais aussi à rétablir un degré.
Well, yeah, you can say that, Brett, about Trump, you know, his business dealings. But, you know, Brett, I don't know if you've ever been in business, run a company, you know, being the CEO of a company, which I have. I've started many different businesses, many different companies, and some of them work out, some of them don't. It's a gamble, right? starting any kind of a business is like gambling. It's like going to the casino, right? And some businesses work out well and you make money, and some businesses you just run along and you're just breaking even, and other businesses fail, and with COVID and all that stuff that happened, look at how many businesses failed. Thousands and thousands of businesses all over the world failed because of what the government did, to prevent people from going out and actually buying stuff. Putting, hey, why do you think the convoy happened? To try and get rid of those mandates that were basically stifling people, stifling businesses, stifling where they could do, how they could travel, and all kind of things like that. It's tough to run a business. Absolutely tough. Yeah, Trump succeeded with some of the stuff that he did. He failed with some of the stuff he did, but he's running the United States. He's a business person with a business mind. And you have to understand that's what he's doing, is he's applying business principles to the whole United States and the way that the United States treats buying and selling stuff with the rest of the world. Take it or leave it. Hey, you may not like the guy. You may be able to point out things, shortfallings of Trump, and I'm not sticking up for him, but I'm sticking up for the way he thinks. I may not agree. I don't put it this way. I don't want any kind of tariffs with Canada. That would be the best thing, right? That we would be able to sell things to the United States without Trump putting even 1% tariff on the goods from Canada. But he has in his mind said, and what he's done with countries around the world has said, look we're sick and tired of goods flowing tariff-free into the United States. We're now going to put tariffs on those goods, and that effectively will bring jobs back to America. America will be producing their own steel, aluminum, vehicles, widgets, you name it, and take it or leave it. You may not like it, but it's a business principle that he's applying to the way the United States is running.
Certitude et de stabilité grâce à un nouvel accord global sur lequel les entreprises et les travailleurs canadiens peuvent compter. Ce qui m'amène aux dernières négociations. Last month, the U.S. announced that effective August 19th, it would impose 50% tariffs on a series of industries ranging from hockey equipment to clothing, cement, and beer. The only advantage of this latest threat was that it was a catalyst for more intensive negotiations.
Oh, F off with your catalyst bullshit, Carney. He's like, he tries to use that term for everything these days. It's getting ridiculous.
Our objectives in these latest talks have been to preserve tariff-free access to the U.S. for the vast majority of Canadian businesses. Secondly, to provide greater stability to our trade relationship. Thirdly, to significantly reduce U.S. tariffs on our key strategic industries so that Canadian businesses in these sectors would have the best access of any in the world. Fourth, protect our small and medium-sized businesses, including by removing the imminent threat of those new tariffs. And fifth, fundamentally, maintain Canada's flexibility, independence, and sovereignty so we can keep building the country Canadians want.
Yeah, you're right, Chris. We should get a free trade deal being right next door to the USA. And we have had a free trade deal with between Canada, USA, and Mexico. That's called the CUSMA agreement. But Trump wants to trash that agreement and bring in new tariffs on some Canadian goods, like he's saying right now, hockey equipment and whatever. All these things are very specific, and I don't have a list in front of me of all the things, but just generally speaking, I'm pretty sure that the states can produce their own hockey goods, hockey pads and whatever hockey players need, you know what I mean? Like they can. He wants to put tariffs on stuff that they can manufacture within the United States. That's what Trump is doing. He's trying to bring the jobs back to the States. He's already said multiple times that's exactly what he's doing, and that's what those tariffs are intended to do. You're right, though. By rights, we should have a free trade deal with the United States. That would be the best thing for Canada, absolutely. But I think that those days are over, whether you like it or not. And I'm not sucking anyone's, I'm just pointing out the facts of I can in my mind think of what Trump is thinking, and I can understand what he's trying to do based on what he's done to other countries. So I know what we have to expect. We have to expect what Trump is doing. And maybe we can get as good of a deal if the UK has a 10% deal on something. I don't know what it is, but on some things they probably have a 10% deal, and maybe we can get as good of a deal as that. I'm not there at the negotiating table to see what the hell is going on and what the deals are all about. But I know that, through the grapevine, I've heard, I don't know if it's true or not, allegedly, Carney has told Trump not to say what the deal is, not to tell anyone what the deal is. Come on. You're negotiating for Canadians. We want to know what the hell the deal is. What is the deal? How bad is this deal? Like, so far, it's all like hush, hush. Nobody even knows what the hell the deal is. In fact, Carney is saying, well, the deal is so bad that we're just packing up and leaving the States and coming back to Canada. And meanwhile, Trump is saying, okay, well, you fools, we're going to hit you with a 50% tax on all these things. That's not dealing. That's not talking. That's not anything. That's just plain whimpering away and letting Trump, basically win. At this point, Trump has won, and Carney is not doing what he said he was going to do, which he was elected, and he said he is the guy, he's the man that can deal with Trump. And apparently, that's not so.
Canada has made offers to secure a fair, comprehensive deal that would be in the best interests of Canadians. We were willing to drop our remaining retaliatory tariffs on strategic sectors, particularly steel, aluminum, and autos, if the United States substantially lowered theirs to levels that made it economic for Canadian companies to export to the United States. In exchange for a fair deal, we would encourage our provinces to return U.S. alcohol to the shelves. And we would take administrative measures to protect supply management without changing the system itself.
Yeah, but like Canoe said, I don't know if you saw that clip from Manitoba Premier. He said, well, Carney is begging us to put, well, not so much saying that he's begging us, but one step under begging us to put the booze back on the shelves to make sure this deal goes through. But he said, well, but I'm going to tell everyone, we'll put the booze back on the shelves, but don't buy any of that American booze, like the Canadian premiers and whatever. In the media is telling Canadians, hey, if the booze does go back on the shelves, just don't buy American booze. Yeah. Well, I'll be out there buying twice as much American booze, to take up from those other Canadians that aren't buying any because of what the government is telling them to do.
The U.S. quotas or the tariffs that would apply. There were some things we wouldn't do. We were not prepared to compromise Canada's sovereignty or to undermine our key industries. Nous n'étions pas prêts à faire de compromis sur notre souveraineté, la protection de la langue française et notre culture. Pour nos collègues américains, soyons clairs, pour mon gouvernement et pour le Canada, ces questions n'ont jamais été sur la table, même si les États-Unis ont essayé.
East Coast, when you go out, don't buy one bottle of Johnny Walker, buy two. Actually, where is Johnny Walker? I thought that was maybe a UK booze or something like that. But anyways, go out there and buy some American booze, right? Buy twice as much as you normally do.
Jusqu'à la dernière minute. Now, in recent weeks, there had been important progress made towards a possible agreement, an agreement that would have reinforced Canada's position as having the best deal in the world with the United States, including by securing the best terms for each of our most important strategic sectors and by providing greater certainty about our future trading relationship. And while we believed earlier this week that we were moving towards a mutually beneficial agreement, in recent days, the United States proposed new terms that were uneconomic, unfair, and undermined the net benefits for Canada and called into question the reliability of any deal. In short, they asked too much and they offered too little. More fundamentally, the cumulative effect of U.S. demands revealed the limits of their commitment to a true economic partnership. As I said earlier, as a result, last evening I suspended trade negotiations with the United States and directed our negotiators to return to Ottawa. I want to thank Minister LeBlanc and our chief negotiator, Janice Charette, their team. They've worked hard in good faith right up to the last minute to defend the interests of Canadians. Now, Canada will match Washington's new tariffs dollar for dollar in order to protect Canadian workers, farmers, families, and businesses.
That's not what it's going to do. It's going to increase inflation if Canada matches. If Trump is saying, well, we're going to put up 50% on all of these items, tariffs, and we go, okay, well, we're going to put up 50% on items coming into Canada. All that's going to do is increase those product costs to the point that people either won't be able to afford them and they won't buy them, or if they do spend the money on that, that's money being wasted on those things. That's going to cause inflation. That is going to cause massive inflation, matching the tariffs that Trump is putting up. Like, come on. You're not going to hurt the United States at all by doing that, because the United States sells stuff to everybody all over the world, and we're just one customer of many. It's not going to hurt the United States. It's going to hurt Canadians by doing that, obviously. Like if I want to buy something from the States, one of those items, and I have to pay 50% more for it, I'm probably going to go, well, I'm going to bypass that and not buy that item. Or, having to pay a lot more for that item out of my pocket is going to make me a poorer person. Don't you understand what you're doing, Carney? You're not helping the situation at all. Make a frickin' deal.
Businesses. Our response will be concentrated in sectors such as steel, dairy, appliances, agricultural equipment, pulp and paper, and electronics.
Yeah, we'll all be paying more for all that stuff.
Products that are currently subject to unjustified Section 232 and 338 tariffs. This is a focused response to protect and defend our industries and allow them to compete with U.S. products in the Canadian market. In the coming days, we'll release details of these new tariff measures which will come into force the Tuesday after Labor Day. Let me be clear. We take this step reluctantly. Reluctantly because we recognize that some of these measures will raise costs and reduce choice for Canadians. Reluctantly because we recognize that some U.S. companies and some U.S. states are innocent bystanders in a dispute that they did not want. Reluctantly because this trade dispute is preventing Canada and America from doing so much good that we could do together. But at the same time, we take this step confident that it is in the best interest.
I understand tariffs. I do. Like, I have long ago said that Canada needs to put up tariffs against those cheap Chinese products that are coming into Canada, such as clothing, right? We used to produce blue jeans right in Edmonton where I live, right? Blue jeans. But when you have all of these products like blue jeans and clothing and socks and T-shirts and everything else coming in from China, flooding our market, how the hell can you operate a business producing any of those items within Canada or within North America, right? So, long ago, before Trump even came up with this idea of tariffs, I said we should be tariffing other countries in the world, right, for those cheap products that are flooding into Canada, so that we set up manufacturing facilities within Canada and we produce those things. Why can't we produce underwear in Canada, socks in Canada, T-shirts in Canada, clothing in Canada? Why? because we've got the cheap stuff coming in from China and a bunch of other foreign countries here that are undercutting what we can actually make. So all those plants closed down. We were making a lot of those things in Canada. We'd had manufacturing plants all over the place, and they all closed down because of the trade. Long ago that we weren't trading with China, if you remember that, way back then. But as soon as we started trading with China, where they're paying $1 an hour for the people working in the factories. How can you compete when you're paying $15 an hour to somebody in North America? It doesn't happen. So the only way to solve that problem is with putting up tariffs against those cheap products flowing into your country, so that you'll manufacture those things within your own country. It's not rocket science, that's for sure.
Interest of Canada. And that by rejecting a bad deal, by standing up for Canada, by focusing on what we can control, we will build Canada strong for all. Building at home and diversifying trade abroad is not our plan B. It has been our plan A from the start.
Yeah, exactly. Art. He has money and he knows how to make money. And, why did Trump become the president of the United States? Because he saw that the whole country was a big freaking failure, especially with the Democrats running the country, right? They had so much mass immigration coming in, so much money flowing out of the country over to other countries, such trade imbalances, trade deficits with so many countries, that as a businessman, he said, I'm going to just treat the United States as a business, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to fix these trade imbalances with all of the rest of the countries in the world. And that's what's happening, And he is absolutely, making a complete, big, broad change with the way that the United States deals with the whole world, from a business point of view. He's not a politician. It's not, a politician gets into power, and what does he do? Spend, like Carney here. When he, all he's doing is spending billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. And the biggest corporation that's making a lot of money off of that is Brookfield. You guys have heard that. You guys know that. And the liberals go, I own Brookfield stock. What the hell's the matter with you? Why don't you own Brookfield stock? And we'll all get rich off of, the money that's being sucked out of Canada that's benefiting corporations like Brookfield, what kind of a leader of a country is that? And of course, does he have any interest in Brookfield? Yeah. What does he have? Well, I guess we'll find out, but it's a terrible situation that we're in here right now. But understand what Trump is doing and what his point of view is, that he's trying to make America great again, and he doesn't really care about Canada or the UK or Japan or China or anything like that. He doesn't care about other countries. He cares about the United States. He wants to make America great again, not Canada. As far as he's concerned, Canada can, with what Trudeau was telling him, hey, if the United States stop buying stuff from Canada is just going to go bankrupt, whatever, and hey, it'll be easier to take over Canada if that happens. Maybe he's thinking something like that. I don't know, but at the end of the day, he doesn't want a trade imbalance with Canada, and his way of doing that is by tariffing goods coming into the United States. And when you put those tariffs on goods, then the people in the United States don't buy those goods because they're higher priced than what you can manufacture, dig out of the ground or whatever, cut trees down in your own country. So then those industries flourish within the United States, whereas before you were just allowing those goods to flow into your country and you're sending all of your money over to other countries. He doesn't want that to happen. He wants to stop that.
Canada will continue to pursue this path to build Canada strong because it's right and because it's working. We're moving rapidly to build major infrastructure. We've already referred 27 nation-building initiatives to the new Major Projects Office, new ports, mines, energy corridors from every region of the country that now represent $500 billion in new private.
Jack Daniels, yeah, Steve-O, buy 2 bottles of, don't just buy 1, buy 2. If they're back on your shelves again. I don't know if they're back on. I think that right now you've got Ontario and BC still have American booze off of the shelves, and Manitoba. But places like Alberta, where I live, we never did take the booze off the shelves. We never did try and insult the United States. Alberta tried to be good with Trump, not bash Trump. And that's why we have a pretty good deal, and we don't have a lot of tariff on our natural gas and oil and stuff like that we're selling to the States. And that's why we're still selling the stuff to the States. You know, we don't want to curtail that. But of course, Trump needs the natural gas and oil that we're providing to them.
Investment. Projects that will help Canada build bigger, move faster, and trade more with the world. Grâce à Maison Canada, nous accélérons la construction de logements abordables. En quelques mois à peine, cette nouvelle agence s'est engagée à construire près de 17 000 logements dans le cadre de 17 partenariats. Nous bâtissons les infrastructures locales sur lesquelles les Canadiens et les Canadiennes comptent au quotidien grâce au nouveau fonds pour bâtir les collectivités fortes qui représente un investissement de 51 milliards de dollars. Plus de 100 projets ont déjà été annoncés partout au pays, entre autres de nouveaux hôpitaux, de nouveaux centres communautaires et de nouvelles lignes de transport en commun. Dans le cadre d'entente avec le Yukon, les territoires du Nord-Ouest, le Nunavut, l'Ontario et le Québec. Nous allons aussi doubler la capacité de notre réseau électrique d'ici 2050 afin que les Canadiennes et les Canadiens aient accès à une énergie abordable et durable pour les générations à venir. Parce que maîtriser notre énergie, c'est maîtriser notre destin. Just last Monday in St. John's,
solar panels.
The governments of Canada, Quebec, Newfoundland, and Labrador launched the single largest investment in Canada's history to build the largest clean energy project in North America ever. Une deuxième Bay James. It will produce enough clean electricity to power every single vehicle in Canada. We're building our economy while taking charge of our security by investing $500 billion into our defense, expanding our shipyards, growing our aerospace industry, increasing our cyber capabilities. And we're realizing Canada's full potential as an energy superpower in nuclear, LNG, renewables, and low carbon oil and gas. These are the initiatives that are the future of our country.
Agreed.
Canada is now the best connected economy in the world. Over the last year, we have signed more than 20 trade and security deals across 5 continents. We completed our most recent deal with the United Arab Emirates in a record 47 days. Canadian businesses now enjoy tariff-free access to 1.5 billion consumers. Over the next 6 months, we'll double that number through new trade deals from ASEAN to India. Cet automne, nous allons entamer les discussions avec l'Union européenne, la deuxième économie en importance dans le monde, pour approfondir et renforcer notre partenariat en matière.
Yeah, but Brett, you know, saying derogatory things or putting Trump down, you know, that's not going to help the situation, you know, regardless of what you think of Trump or what his shortcomings are. Or things that he's done in his past. He is the president of the United States. He's the one that's calling the shots. He's the one that makes the final decision. He's the one that Canada has to deal with. Like him or not, you know, putting him down doesn't help the situation at all. You know, like that's part of the problem is that Canada has been putting Trump and his administration down for the past year so much that Trump is kind of jaded, a little bit jaded on dealing with Canada. And it's like, yeah, Canada, you've said this about me, said that about me, tried to pull this shit on me. And you know what? Is Canada going to get the best deal after doing that kind of shit to Trump? Obviously not. It would be like, if you have something and somebody wants to buy it off of you, okay, and they're calling you out and calling you names and putting you down and stuff like that. Are you likely to sell that item to them? Are you likely to sell that item to them for a deal, for a low price? Or are you going to say, screw you? You're saying a bunch of derogatory shit about me and putting me down and whatever, not buying our booze and doing all kind of shit that we don't like, causing harm to our business. And now you want a deal? Now you want a really good deal with us? It's not going to happen. We've shot ourselves in our foot because of our stupid politicians in Canada. Like, really, honestly. And I'm not talking pro-Trump either. I'm talking anti-Canadian politicians for being such idiots for doing what they're doing. And now actually walking away from the table because you didn't get a free trade agreement with the United States. You're not going to get a free trade agreement. Come on.
De sécurité et d'économie.
And he switches to French.
Canada is building such unparalleled market access because we're trusted, because we're reliable, and because we have what the world wants. That's why the world is coming to our door. In just 3 weeks, we'll host the first Canadian Investment Summit in Toronto. The summit is attracting the world's largest investors who collectively manage over $100 trillion in assets. When they get here, they'll find a Canadian economy that has never been more connected or more ambitious. Nous réduisons les impôts, nous éliminons les obstacles et nous accélérons la transformation de notre économie. Nous avons ramené le taux d'imposition sur les investissements des entreprises à seulement 13%, soit 4,5 points de pourcentage de moins qu'aux États-Unis et environ la moitié de la moyenne du G7. Nous accélérons les processus
Hey, by the way, in the French excerpt here, thanks a lot for watching. Anyone watching out there on whatever platform that you're on, sub up, like, whatever. I know we've got about 100 people watching right now. We're coming to you on Kick, Facebook, 4 different YouTube channels, Twitch, and on X, so wherever you might be. Hit that follow, hit that like, give us a thumbs up, whatever, on the channel. Appreciate your watching. And we get into political stuff and all kind of stuff. Sometimes I'm restreaming protests and stuff like that, So you want to sub up to this channel, turn the bell on, and hey, welcome if you're just a newbie watching over here. Yeah, and I'm like a conservative. I'm a conservative person, so I'd like to see Trump in power in the United States over the Democrats, for example. I'd like to see a conservative government in Canada, which we don't have. We've got this guy, Carney, running the show here in Canada, and I don't like him. I don't like the way he negotiates. I don't like what he's doing for Canada. I don't like all the billions of dollars that he's spending on a bunch of projects that he says, oh, we're investing money, investing. No, you're spending the taxpayers' money. And we don't have that money. You're printing money like crazy. Our inflation rate is going up. This guy is screwing Canada so bad on so many different levels. I don't like what he's doing, and this is just another example of his incompetence, Like, honestly, I could do a better job running frickin' Canada than Carney, and I'm not a frickin' banker.
Et nous les rendons plus prévisibles, tout en investissant avec le secteur privé. Nous bâtissons une économie canadienne unifiée. Au cours de la dernière année, nous avons éliminé tous les obstacles fédéraux au commerce intérieur.
Yeah, but like Trump or hate Trump, he's not trying to crash the American economy. He's, like when the Democrats were in power, they were doing a lot of things that was really bad for the United States. You may not think so, but I could see it, and to the same degree, the Liberals are doing a lot of bad things for Canada, including things like mass immigration. That's just one example, mass immigration, right? And they weren't doing anything, the Democrats in the United States, to help the American economy at all. The money was flowing out of the United States. They were becoming more and more broke, right? Trillions and trillions of dollars in debt over the years. Trump is trying to stop that. That's all he's trying to do. He's trying to stop the outflow of cash from the United States, keep the money in the United States, keep the jobs, bring the jobs back. Look at what happened to manufacturing, for example. All the jobs went over to China, right? They left. What happened to Zenith? What happened to RCA? What happened to the companies that were manufacturing televisions and stuff like that in the United States? They couldn't compete with the cheap Chinese stuff that was being produced, right? So all of those companies went out of business, went broke, whatever, shut down, and all the jobs went to other countries. And, can't you see that what Trump is trying to do, whether you like him as a businessman or not, whether he went broke or not with whatever the hell he was doing, he's not trying to crush the American economy. He's not trying to make America a worse place to live in. He's trying to, make the United States a better place for what he's doing. He's trying to make deals with all the countries around the world that benefit the United States. He's not a Canadian. He's not sticking up for Canadians. He's not trying to make a better deal for Canada. He's trying to make a better deal for the United States. We have to understand that. We have to realize that. Like Carney has said many times, this is a new world order. This is a new thing that we have to deal with. That we can't have the same deal that we had before with the United States. We have to make a new deal, and you don't make a new deal by running back to Canada with your tail between your legs, and that's exactly what Carney is doing. He's a bad bargainer. He's not making a deal whatsoever. What's he doing? He ran back to Canada, and now he makes a speech about, U.S. this, U.S. that, U.S. the other thing. They're bad people. We don't like them, and we're not going to put their booze back on the shelves, and we can't make a deal with them because the deal that we are trying to make with them is a bad deal. You're not going to make a good deal. There is not going to be such a thing as a good deal. You have to make a deal where Trump wins. Trump will put tariffs on Canadian goods, whether you like it or not, whether it's a 25% tariff or a 15% or a 10%. I don't know what the final number is going to be, but there will be a tariff on goods coming from Canada into the United States. You have to accept that, and you have to make a deal. You can't just let Trump say, well, if you don't make a deal, we're just going to tax you 50% on a whole bunch of different products. That's where we're at right now. When you walk away from the table, Trump is going to put those tariffs on there, and now we're screwed. And what are you going to do? Sit there and not make a deal? And just bellyache about it? That's what this speech is all about.
Nous avons assoupli les conditions pour que les travailleurs canadiens puissent mettre leurs compétences à profit partout au pays. Nous travaillons aussi avec les provinces et les territoires pour éliminer les obstacles qui ont divisé notre économie pendant des générations. Nous prenons des mesures pour que les Canadiens et les Canadiennes puissent acheter canadien, embaucher les travailleurs canadiens et bâtir avec des matériaux canadiens plus facilement. This fall, in budget 2026, we will go further to make Canada even more competitive and attractive for businesses and strategic investors to build, invest, and grow. The new U.S. tariffs are designed to hurt us and divide us. They're a miscalculation. They're a miscalculation.
Well, he is. He's helping Israel because Israel doesn't want Iran to have the nuclear bomb. That's what that whole thing is about. That's why he started that war with Iran, is to help Israel. Absolutely. And, the United States has been looking after Israel ever since its inception, ever since the whole thing started over there. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. That's not news at all. It's part of life, whether you like it or not. And, over there in Israel, they don't want to see Iran have the nuclear bomb, so that's why he got in there and caused that trouble. And of course, it's causing higher gas prices, higher inflation, and it's bad for the average citizen. You know, hopefully it will be a short-term thing. But for me, I think that this war with Iran, the only way that it is going to stop is to actually get rid of the Islamic regime. And I think the only way of doing that is boots on the ground. So are Americans going to be boots on the ground in Iran in order to solve the problem and get the oil going through the Strait of Hormuz again? I personally think that that's what has to happen. I don't know. We'll soon see.
Because Canadians will always take care of each other. We know we're stronger together. In the last year and a half, Canadians have met this moment with resolve, with purpose, with strength. Many ways, vacationing in national parks, buying Canadian products, choosing Canadian, small acts of solidarity, repeated millions of times that make a statement.
Yeah, we're bringing Australian beef, or New Zealand, I forget which country, but I think it's Australian beef, and it's like half the price of stuff that's on the shelf here in Canada. You know, like amazing how cheap that stuff is coming in from down under. Like unbelievable.
We're masters of our destiny. This government is matching that spirit with $25 billion to protect Canadian workers and businesses hurt by American tariffs. We're helping small and medium-sized businesses respond by investing in equipment and productivity and supply chain resilience. And we're financing large companies to keep large employers operating and to retain their workers. We're helping those hardest hit industries retool and pivot to those new international markets. And we are being our own best customer. We have the right plan.
Yeah. You know, did you hear what he just said? We're becoming our own best customer. In other words, you know, instead of making a deal with Trump, right, you run back to Canada and you say, well, Canadians, instead of selling stuff to the United States, we need to buy more Canadian products and we need to become our own best customer. We're already our own best customer. We buy, but you know what? The average person, when you go to the store to buy anything, you're going to shop. And you're going to shop for price because you don't want to spend all your money on a product, right? For example, do you go out and buy a Cadillac or do you buy an Oldsmobile? You know what I mean? You don't buy a Cadillac because you look at the price of the thing and you go, well, shit, that's above my price level. I just can't buy that. You know, you shop for price. Everybody shops for price, and you're going to buy something that's the lowest price. That's what you're going to do. And if stuff is coming in from the United States and it's a lower price, like an apple or an orange or something like that, which, hey, oranges, I don't even think we grow oranges in Canada because they don't grow here. You're going to buy something that is the lowest price when you go to the store. When you buy tomatoes, don't you know? When you look at this one, you go, "This is $2 a pound, and this one is $1.50 a pound." Well, shit, you're probably going to buy the one that's $1.50. They look about the same. They'll probably taste about the same. They may not be vine ripened or whatever. But everyone shops price. That's what we do. And if you can buy something cheaper, you're going to buy cheaper. You know, and you can't tell people, well, we'll just stop selling stuff or not worry about that. The Americans are going to put a 50% tariff on Canadian goods, and don't worry about that. You guys in Canada, you just buy more Canadian goods. No, because we don't buy that shit that we're trying to sell to the United States. We only buy the stuff that we're already buying. Like, come on. We're already buying Canadian shit.
To build Canada strong. We're on track, and it's working. At the same time, we recognize that some of the biggest payoffs of this plan, of this transformation, will take time. And that's why we're also focused on giving Canadians a boost today and a bridge to that better tomorrow. So we've cut taxes on incomes, on housing, and on gas. We've introduced the Canada Groceries and Essential Benefits up to 18.
You're trying to put carbon tax of 600% increase on Alberta heavy industry. And that tax gets passed on to the consumer eventually due to higher prices that they're producing of their natural gas, of oil, and all kind of shit like that. Your carbon capture is garbage, money down the drain. Your carbon credit stuff benefits companies like Brookfield. Mr. Carbon Carney, you know, we don't like you. We don't like you as prime minister. Get the hell out. You know, you're doing a shit job. You're not even able to make a deal with Trump like you said you were going to do. Like, get out of town already.
$1,990 per family, helping 12 million Canadians get ahead. We're stronger now than when the United States started this trade war. More unified, more determined,
say something
more ambitious.
that I can put up here that's
with the strongest fiscal position in the
is,
G7
you know,
and a resilient economy. Canada has all the resources we need to pivot and to prosper. Growth is accelerating. We're projected to have the second fastest rate in the G7 this year and next. We are creating jobs in this economy.
Well, yeah. If you're a liberal, you know, obviously you don't like what I'm saying, right? And you think, oh, I'm a moron, whatever. And I see what the chat is saying. I don't like Carney. I don't like what he's doing. If you think he's doing a good job for Canada, what about all the money that he's, you know, basically all the projects and whatever that's benefiting his pocket company, Brookfield? Do you like that? You know, you like the deal that he's making with Trump? Like, you guys are a bunch of liberals out there. They're saying, "Oh, yeah, Tommy, you don't know what you're talking about." Yeah, I'm generalizing on everything that I'm talking about. Just basically saying what I see. And if you don't like what I see, well, hey, don't just call me a moron. Point out something that what I'm saying is wrong, okay? Because it's easy to call somebody a moron. But, you know, at least counter what I'm saying. You know, let's type something of interest in the chat. Contribute to the chat. Don't just call people names. That's a liberal thing to say Tommy's a complete moron. Well, you must be a liberal to say that. I would bet that, right?
At 4 times the rate of the United States. Our non-U.S. exports are up sharply. They're on track to double over the next decade. Foreign direct investment in Canada is at its highest level in 2 decades. It's running at twice the rate of our nearest G7 competitor. Canada. Canada now ranks as the most attractive country in the world for infrastructure investment. Last spring, I warned that America is trying to break us so they can own us. And I promise that that will never, ever happen. We are keeping that promise. Canada is becoming stronger and less dependent on America. We are already giving ourselves more than they can take away.
Super salty.
And we
Good to see you.
are just getting started.
Robert.
As we observed earlier this week in St. John's, Canadians don't submit to the weather. We thrive in it. We don't wait to see which way the wind's blowing or surrender ourselves to the waves to be storm-tossed by events. We set our own course. We make our own weather. Au Canada, nous sommes maîtres chez nous de l'océan à l'autre. Building Canada strong for all. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Maintenant, nous allons passer aux questions. We'll turn to questions. First question, Mackenzie.
Hello, Prime Minister.
There.
Mackenzie Gray with Global.
Yeah, it's like, okay, if you're conservative, a conservative thinker, well, you'll probably agree with me. But if you're, you know, a liberal or NDP or Democrat or whatever, you probably won't agree with me, which I understand that. I understand that. But say something to counter what I'm saying. Don't just say I'm talking shit or something, you know, like counter. Let's hear what you have to say about the whole situation here. You know, like, I don't like what I see at all. Like, 1 year later, this guy doesn't have a deal and he walks away from the table with his tail between his legs. What kind of a frickin' politician is this guy? He's not a politician. He's a frickin' banker. He's not a deal maker. Trump is the deal maker. Make a deal with frickin' Trump. He's not. I don't know what the hell the Liberals are doing. What are they doing? Stick up for the Liberals. Let's hear, why is he such a good guy? Why is Carney such a great negotiator? Why is he, doing what he said he was going to do? Where is all this? Where is it? I don't see it at all. And you guys say, "Oh, Tommy, you don't know what you're talking about." Yeah, right.
Global news. I'm hoping you can tell us what the specific last-minute changes that the Americans proposed that made a deal untenable.
Thank you for the question. Look, I would say two things. One is there are some specifics, and I'll give you some examples, but it was also a cumulative aspect, as I mentioned in my remarks, about the willingness dans l'ensemble in total to enter into a true economic partnership. But in terms of specifics, I'll give you three, and I know there's other questions. First, with respect to the auto industry, both in terms of the level of the tariffs, the treatment of Canadian content, so Canadian parts, Canadian steel, Canadian content in vehicles, the scope of the tariffs. The Americans wanted to limit it to autos only, not include medium and heavy autos and light trucks, to be more specific, not include medium and heavy duty trucks, which is a big change, obviously. Yeah,
but whether you like Trump or not, he's the guy that's running the United States. It doesn't matter whether you like him or not. Even if you're a conservative, there are conservatives that, or Republicans in the States that, there's something, there's going to be some things that you like about the guy. There's going to be some things that you hate about the guy. It's like that with every politician. You can't like every single thing that they do, right? That's just the way life is, move on, get on with it, already. But I'm just pointing out what's going on here between this trade thing that's happening between Canada and the United States, and you have to understand what Trump is thinking. You have to understand his mindset. You have to understand what he's trying to do. Right? He's not trying to make things terrible for Canada. He's trying to make things great for the United States. That's what he's trying to do, and of course, it's going to hurt countries like Canada. It's hurt countries right across the whole world. They've the states have put up tariffs against products coming in from every country around the world. The deal is, what kind of a deal can we make with Trump? And you don't make a great deal with Trump by bashing, sticking it to him. It's like you keep doing that to a guy, and then you expect a deal. That these Canadian politicians are absolutely clueless. Completely clueless, especially this guy.
And with respect to Ford's new plan, for example, in Oakville, which is F-350s, 450s, 550s, they would have been excluded. GM Silverado, same thing, would have been excluded from that. No rationale, just for exclusion. So effectively moving into a series of terms that would made the production more uneconomic over time. Okay, so that's a change. That restriction, that clarification, that precision was a change. The U.S. introduced in the last hours, efforts to restrict our ability to have other trade deals. You heard me say a moment ago what we've accomplished in the last year: 20 new deals, economic and security partnerships. The prospect of doubling our market access because we believe in free trade. We're the partner of choice in many respects for countries around the world, and the Americans wanted to restrict that. They had language that they wanted to restrict that. Unacceptable. And I'll give you a third, et peut-être on peut discuter plus en français. Continual efforts, always resisted, as I said in my remarks, and always will be resisted. Efforts to...
Every politician around the world crashed damn near every country during COVID. Fig Newton, it happened in Canada too. Trudeau crashed our economy here in Canada. Why do you think the convoy happened? Why do you think the convoy went to Ottawa? Because people were sick and tired of what was happening with the mandates, so they were crashing the economy, basically. Not rocket science there.
Restrict our protections of our language, our culture, and in effect, our sovereignty. So elements coming in, ramping up, any of them individually, but collectively put us in a position where what had been on a trajectory, absent those elements, for a fair deal, a good deal for Canadians, not perfect, but a good deal, a deal we would not accept.
Follow-up, question suivie.
Was Howard Lutnick's involvement in the last days an impediment to getting a deal?
It's a question for the U.S. administration. Ultimately, I'm responsible for the decisions of the Canadian government. We take it as a cabinet, but I certainly bear those responsibilities. And so the head of the U.S. administration, the president, bears responsibility for the decisions they take. But I will say this, which is that the Canadian team, unified, the individuals you see here, their team members, our ambassador in Washington, my chief of staff, unified, talking together, the clerk of the Privy Council, everyone in the loop, everyone knows what our objectives are, collective decision making. As I say, ultimately, I and the cabinet bear responsibility for those decisions, but unity. You cannot say that about the United States administration. And as a consequence, last point, and I'll go to your colleagues, because I think this is important. In these last few days, we were drilling down on specific issues.
Yeah, but some, okay, you're talking about the war. The war is probably what's causing those things to happen, Brett, where he's trying to prevent Iran from having the nuclear bomb, basically, is what he's doing. And that is causing hardship with what you're talking about. That's what the whole thing is. He's not purposely trying to do that. He is purposely trying to prevent Iran from having the bomb. And sometimes when you get into a war situation, there are other side effects that happen because of what you're doing. Maybe in his mind, he's trying to save the world, right? He's trying to save Israel from being decimated by a nuclear bomb that Iran has been threatening. And you've got a regime there that's been threatening for years and years and years, for 40 years already since they've gotten into power. So, again, Trump is doing what he perceives that he needs to do, and there's collateral damage, i.e. higher prices, higher oil prices, stuff like that's happening. Like it or not, that's, I don't personally like to see any kind of higher prices for anything, honestly. And did he have to go to war with Iran, with Israel? Hey, that's debatable. That's another side issue, of course.
Where that might have been papered over, the differences in the administration, if there were indeed differences. Ultimately, there's a decision maker at the top.
Robert,
and
the same thing with
Carney.
Down on those, Carney is doing the same.
A number of those issues that I just referenced became very clear, and there was not a deal that we would sign. Thank you.
Every politician ends up richer for being a politician. That's probably part of the reason why they become a politician. They know that it will probably enrich themselves, but Trump also has. I don't think that Trump is taking money for his job, isn't he? I think he's doing it for free. He's taking the money that he would normally get and donating it to places, right? I think that's what he's doing. But his businesses are probably doing quite well. He's selling different things and whatever, gold this and whatever. But that's all a side issue. I personally believe that Trump is trying to make America great again. I can see by what he's doing. Why would he be doing these tariffs? He's not doing the tariffs to hurt other countries. He's doing it to make America great again. And that's what we're talking about here. That's what this whole thing is about, is the tariff deal between right now Canada and the United States. But he's done the tariff deal with every country in the world, every country that America buys and sells goods with. He's saying, come to the table, and this is what I propose. I'm wanting 50%. What are you gonna deal? Where's that Trump thinks he's like a deal maker, where the exact price that he wants, or the exact number that he wants, is way lower than what he's asking for. That. Because he's done that with every country already. If you read his book, Art of the Deal, that's the way he deals with people. He's not a hardliner. He's not saying, the tariff is going to be 25% and that's it, take it or leave it. No, He's saying the tariff is going to be 50%. Bargain with me. Bargain with me. But you know damn well in his mind that the number is probably 25%. It's probably half of what it is that he's asking, you know. That's the way Trump works.
Prochaine question.
Bonjour, Andréa
Bonjour.
Blazer, Radio-Canada. Vous parlez de compromis sur notre souveraineté, la langue française, la culture, les industries clés.
Speak
Quelles
about
concessions
sovereignty.
précises vous n'étiez pas prêt à faire là-dessus?
Par exemple, il y a des suggestions
Big D.
de changer
You know,
le
I don't know how you
découpe.
can say something like that. What do you mean lying and scamming? If I'm going to lie or you think that I'm lying, point out what my lie is. If I'm scamming, you know, what am I scamming? I'm not scamming anything. I'm not asking anybody to do anything. What do you mean scamming and lying? Like, you know, it's easy for you to spout off something like that, but let's see your evidence. Where's your evidence of that point that you're trying to make right there? You won't be able to have any evidence because you don't have any evidence. It's easy to call somebody out on the internet and call them names and shit like that, but where's your evidence? You don't have any.
Découvrabilité, en effet, c'est le mot, oui. Les découvrabilités en ligne de médias français, par exemple, culture canadienne, c'est une des exemples. Les subventions, le soutien pour notre culture, notre culture et la langue française, et même les renseignements qui sont sur les produits canadiens. Alors, il y en a plusieurs exemples et jamais inacceptable au début, à la fin. Mais les Américains essaient et on dit non. Et c'est simple. Au fond, c'est simple. Jamais sur la table pour le Canada, mon gouvernement.
Big D, I don't like Russia. I don't like Russia. I want Russia to lose the war. I'm not how can you say I'm helping Russia? I'm pro-Ukraine winning the war against Russia. I revel in seeing Wildberry buildings burn in Russia. They're the ones, in my mind, they're the ones that started the war with Russia. They're the aggressor. And, they're the ones that are taking a beating right now by the Ukraine. Of course, the Ukraine is taking a beating, too, because Russia is bombing apartment buildings in Ukraine. But on the other hand, Ukraine is bombing refineries and, Amazon-type facilities and all kind of stuff like that. And there's gas lineups all over the place in Russia. And the people are really, really hurting because of what stupid Putin has done. You know, that's my take on it. I'm not supporting Russia at all. I don't know where you get that from.
Et les Canadiens.
And I'm not getting any money from Russia or China or any outside country. Sure, there is the odd person that donates to my channel, and they might be in the United States, or they might be in Canada, or they might be in the UK, hey, or they might be in Russia, hey, and, I appreciate any donations, super chats or whatever to the channel. But I'm not trying to scam anybody. I'm just on here belly aching about how I don't like what's happening in Canada. I don't like what the politicians are doing, and especially what Carney is doing for Canada. I don't think he's doing a good job. That's why I'm on here, to point out what the hell is actually happening here, and to give you, a little bit of food for thought about what I think about this. You may not like about what I say, but hey, that's what the chat is all about. Say what you want in the chat, and, everyone will see what your point of view is. But, don't just try and say that, to try and label me that I'm trying to do something or support Russia or something like that. That's totally ludicrous to say that.
Qu'est-ce que cette nouvelle escalade dans la relation commerciale avec les États-Unis signifie pour la révision de la COM?
C'est pas de bonnes nouvelles, évidemment. Mais maintenant, c'est plus clair. Le bout de ligne des Américains dans quelques secteurs et les limites
Iran
que
is
leurs intérêts
enriching the
dans l'intégration
nuclear, or the
canado-américaine. On n'a plus de
raw
plus de
materials. They're
perspective,
enriching it. Not
à cause
trying
de
to
ces
make
négociations.
Iran is not trying to make a nuclear power plant. You know, that's not why they're enriching the uranium, right? They're enriching it far more than what it takes for a nuclear power plant. Like, come on, like for you to say that, I don't know where you get that from. The whole world knows that. I've been following what they've been doing for the last 40 years in Iran, and it's not for a good purpose. I'll tell you that right now. So I don't know. You can say that Iran has never been close to having a nuclear weapon, but with more and more enriching that they're doing, it's closer and closer and closer.
Prochaine question. Next question. CP.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Morning.
David Baxter with the Canadian Press. There's a lot of people watching this right now who are rightfully worried about losing their jobs, losing their businesses in this trade war.
Yep.
What's your message to those people who are worried about becoming collateral damage?
Well,
Yeah, that I would believe.
Thank you,
free
David.
speech.
A couple of things. First, the people in these industries, particularly the industries that are being hit today by these 50% tariffs, many of them are small, medium-sized businesses. They're in a wide range of industries, spread across the country, concentrated Ontario, Quebec, British Columbia, by and large. That's not exclusive, but it's that. And they have very much been top of mind. Top of mind, it's one of the reasons why we work so hard and stretch so far to try to get a deal. Now, but not a deal at any price, not a deal on any timetable. So a couple messages for those people. The first is we're going to hit back. Okay, we're going to hit back and we are going to provide tariff protection where we can, where it's relevant for some of those industries. Steel steel products and others is in some cases an example of that. We're going to provide full tariff protection there to prevent Americans businesses coming in and taking business. So that provides some. But more fundamentally, we will provide support and we will do whatever it takes to support these businesses. We'll be releasing details of this early next week alongside our tariff actions to support these businesses. And we will support these businesses for as long as it takes. In other words, beyond the life of this U.S. administration. Okay, so there's various mechanisms that we've worked out.
That's exactly where we're going in Canada. Whatever happens to you guys in the UK, guys like this guy here, just follow what's happening. Why do you think we have those hate speech laws in Canada? Because you guys introduced them in the UK, and whatever you guys do over there, it's like a globalist thing. Like the globalists come up with some plan, some idea, whatever, and then they institute it in one country and they push it to all of these elites, these politicians, to have it happen in countries across the world. That's why you see stuff that happens in the UK, happens in Canada, happens in Australia, happens in New Zealand. Just like clockwork, if you notice what's happening. These guys are globalist politicians that are pushing that globalist agenda, and that's exactly what this guy is. Shame on Mark Carney. Shame on you.
We'll give all the details in a few days, but think of working through our regional development agencies, also working through the Business Development Bank of Canada, and those will be the focal points for a limited number of easy-to-use but very effective programs that are going to help these businesses work through this period, pivot as necessary, because part of what we're seeing is what the potential future limits are to the American market.
Follow up. Next question suivie.
And in the last couple of days, we heard some pushback from some of the premiers, such as Wab Kinew. Susan Holt said she was reluctant to put liquor back on the shelves. Quebec's Christine.
He did, yeah. Well, when you tell Trump to go fuck himself, okay, and you call out Trump, and you allow shit to happen that puts Trump in a bad light, and then you want to make a deal with the guy. You know, it's like when somebody stabs you in the back, do you really, really, really want to make a deal with that guy? Or Trump is the one that is saying, go fuck yourself, Carney. Trump is the one saying that to Carney, right? He's saying 50% tariffs or make a deal. And Carney's like, well, yeah, how about this deal? And Trump is going, no, go fuck yourself. Your deal's a piece of shit. Either make a deal with the way I want it, or you're going to pay 50% tariff. That's where we're at here. You don't tell Trump to go fuck himself. He's the alpha in the situation. This guy is the little beta dog that's going whimpering back home with his tail between his legs. He's on his knees begging Trump for some kind of a deal after calling him an asshole. Like, what do you think is going to happen? Jesus, you guys.
Frechette was saying she hadn't made up her mind on what Quebec's response was going to be yet, and Doug Ford was uncharacteristically silent, but he did send you a letter outlining his red lines last Monday. Just did any pushback from the premiers play a factor in the decision to end talks with the U.S.?
Thanks for the question. First, let me say a couple of things. I mean, the short answer is no. So just to give you that perspective. But, and this is an important but, the dialogue with the premiers in the last few days, over the course of the last 18 months, and the partnership that we've established with the premiers is crucial, fundamentally important. The essence of our first minister's discussion 2 days ago, we're going to have another one this afternoon. But
sure
the essence
this is
of
the one
our
you're talking
first
about,
minister's
right?
discussion 2 days ago was that it's our judgment, as we told Canadians, that we were on a path to a potential deal that would give Canada not just the best deal overall, but the best deal in all of our strategic sectors, that the price for that deal, in our judgment, was worth paying. We still had to come back to the premiers with the exact specifics, so it's entirely reasonable for Premier Frechette or a premier to say, well, I want to see everything before I make that determination. But that our judgment was going to be that it's going to be worth to take a couple of steps that provinces needed to do in order to get the overall deal. I'll go back to Mr. Baxter's question, not least because of the potential impact that we will now be fighting against on these small, medium-sized businesses here. Okay, so that was the discussion. I would, as chair of that meeting, there was a consensus that that's what we would do, subject to finishing the negotiation. Now, they didn't have to make that determination Wednesday, I guess it was, when we spoke, because we hadn't finalized all the terms of the deal. We were still negotiating the deal. And as it turns out, as I've just described, that the Americans changed a number of those terms, introduced new elements, made it uneconomic. And so we're not asking the premiers to do anything today except work together to support our businesses and build the country strong. And I'll underscore that last point, which, and I said this on Monday in St. John's, for the future of the country, the Churchill Agreement, Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador, supported by the federal government, that agreement and those initiatives are the most important initiatives for the future of our country. As important as trade is with the U.S. and as dramatic as the issues are and the response that we have to give in certain industries, what we're doing ourselves, premiers, the federal government, truly Canadians, is far, far more important than dominance.
Is Carney going to let it happen?
Prochaine question.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Mike Blanchfield, Politico Canada.
Question.
You've outlined a few things that the Americans asked for that were unacceptable to Canada. Did they ask about critical minerals, given that their importance, their requirement for it, and how did that play out, and what happened at the last?
Dibs on our minerals.
Well, thank you for the question. Look, the critical minerals, other aspects of energy, but let's focus in on your question, critical minerals. There is a real opportunity for cooperation between Canada and the United States on critical minerals. Just as there is cooperation between Canada and the other G7 countries, like-minded countries on critical minerals. We are demonstrating that cooperation right now. Over the course of the last 12 months, we've signed.
Is this it?
50 deals, or it's on the order of $50 billion worth of transactions in critical minerals, stockpiling other forms.
My minerals
and
here.
Having the U.S. as part of that process and merging some of the processes that the U.S. have. They have a tariff initiative that they've worked on. We have the G7 action plan, which we launched in Kananaskis. Bringing those together makes sense. Good opportunity. Kind of thing you do as part of a trade deal. One of the reasons to do a trade deal with Canada. So yes, makes sense. Now, in the context of the U.S. putting 50% tariffs on a bunch of our business, trying to influence our cultural support and language protections, not agreeing to sensible economic terms for our core industry in autos, we've got a lot of demand for critical minerals, so there's less opportunity to cooperate.
You know what? I think auto production is done in Canada. When you start bringing in those cheap Chinese vehicles, and then you want our auto industry to thrive in Canada, it's not going to happen. Because when you bring in the Chinese vehicles at a 5% tariff, how can anybody compete with anything like that in Canada? You can't. You can't. You talk about the auto industry. The U.S. putting a 15% tariff on our autos is not the problem. The problem is bringing in those cheap Chinese vehicles, which at least Trump is smart enough to keep that 100% tariff on those vehicles into the United States.
Operate with the United States. That is something that is a missed opportunity as a consequence of what's happened. But we didn't cause it to happen.
Did they ask for exclusive access to our critical minerals?
We would never give exclusive access.
And did Canada do anything at the last minute that could have triggered this? Did you make any asks or offers?
No, no. There's a short answer. From our perspective, we clarified what was on offer, and we're continually disappointed by the answers.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Good morning, Greg Quinn, Market News. Your midnight statement mentioned part of the breakdown was the reliability of any deal. What do you say to other global business and what do you say to other business and government leaders around the world who can wonder if the U.S. can be trusted from here? If Donald Trump can't execute the art of the deal with friendly Canada, who can he do business with?
Yeah, I mean, if you execute a deal, you have to stand by that deal. And Canada stands by our agreements. We've stood by the term. I mean, we're only responding in the context of a series of unjustified tariffs that have been put in place, unjustified under we have a deal with the Americans. I mean, that's the thing. We have a deal with the Americans. It's called CUSMA. We have side letters that clarify behavior in steel, in aluminum, in autos. All of those are being violated day in, day out. They act as if, we have a deal. Okay, what message does that send? On the other side of the ledger, you have a country, Canada, that has a series of trade deals around the world that's expanding rapidly, that will continue to expand because we're trusted, because we're reliable, because we have things like critical minerals, many other aspects that the world wants. And so we're going to continue to pursue that.
Good idea.
And one thing that we certainly were not going to accept was any restriction on our ability to execute those deals.
Follow-up.
Secondly, was part of your calculation around declining U.S. bargaining power? I'm thinking of President Trump's polling numbers versus yours. I'm thinking of already elevated inflation that American consumers are facing, and also, recent instability in the.
Again, I'll tell you, sub up to the channel, follow the channel, give us a thumbs up. Let's get this thing going. We have a little while left with this interview here. He's got lots of good questions coming from the media here. And he is on the spot right now. Anybody that voted him in, you liberals out there, you better be watching this guy, because he made a lot of promises, before getting elected and after getting elected. And he is absolutely not keeping his promises. Well, I don't know if he promised to make Brookfield rich, but if he did, that particular one is apparently the best promise ever. But other than that, I don't know.
U.S. bond market.
Well, let me say a couple things. No, in terms of what we're focused on.
You got to watch it when he touches his nose like that. He's like thinking and trying to make something up.
As you know, is building Canada strong. It's putting Canada in a better position for Canadians, for all Canadians. Now, it happens to be the case that we are stronger and we're in a better position than we were 18 months ago, because we've recognized right from the start that we needed to focus on building at home. We needed to diversify abroad. Both of those have.
I don't know. Do they? Does America has 100% tariff on Chinese cars? Big D. I don't know how many Chinese cars that they import, but I know that Trump doesn't like them. And you know, whoever it was that said that, the technology in those Chinese cars. I was watching the top 5 Chinese cars produced, and the amount of technology and the type of technology that they have in those cars is absolutely phenomenal. The power of those things, it's like 600 horsepower, 900 horsepower, or whatever from a SUV and stuff like that. And the vehicles, honestly, are cheaper than a Tesla and more powerful than a Tesla. Those cars are absolutely amazing. Well, the electric cars, right? They're all electric.
Longer payoffs, but we're already starting to see some of the benefits of that. We recognized, and credit to the Minister of Finance, we recognized right from the start
Some of them have
that we need to continue to maintain the strongest fiscal position in the G7 so that our borrowing, and we will borrow, but borrowing for investment, not for operating expenses, and that shift in borrowing there. And let me make this point because the last part of your question, you know this well, that we are entering a phase where fiscal strength,
people are buying Toyotas,
discipline, focus is going to be very
Quality
important.
stuff.
It's going to be scrutinized. I mean, it doesn't, I will say to Canadians at home, like as someone who's been in and around financial markets for a long period of time, what I'm about to say doesn't make sense, but it's the way the world works. Is that
I don't know if he's a gasoline sniffer though. He's kind of against gasoline.
that markets sometimes ignore these fundamentals, and then all of a sudden they focus on them. And when they focus on them, if you don't have your house in order, it's too late. We have our house in order, and we're getting stronger. So
yeah, is Carney going to raise your carbon tax? Does he loves the carbon tax, right? He's sort of one of the engineers of the carbon tax and the whole carbon tax capture and the carbon credit system and all that kind of stuff. Like he's one of the main people behind all that, and he knows that it will generate phenomenal amounts of money for those companies that are behind those things, right? And it's another way of taxing companies, which end up passing those taxes on to you and I. He's taxing everything, anything that. Whenever you hear the word carbon, you know that it's something about making somebody rich, right? Honestly, it's the biggest scam ever.
Next question.
Hi, Prime Minister. Tom Parry with CBC. Can you talk more about what the United States was demanding Canada do with its other trading partners? Were they asking us to impose tariffs on other countries in conjunction with them?
Tom, there were elements of that, and in certain sectors. And to be clear, there were elements where we would see the merit of that as part of a comprehensive deal that made sense for Canada. So if you have an integrated auto market and you want to have an integrated steel market, for example, related aluminum market, then and you have concerns, as we do, as the Americans do, about
this comment here, Robert. Yeah, it seems like support for Trump is declining a little bit since he started the war, and people are seeing higher gasoline prices and food prices and stuff like that, higher inflation. They're not liking the fact that he's gone to the war. So it's a very, very unpopular thing that Trump has done there, which is really affecting him. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens there. Interesting point, though.
On-market economies, about transshipment of steel, for an example, through third countries, et cetera, then it makes sense to align. And I would say that, again, within a comprehensive deal, we'd be prepared to do that. But that's us deciding to do something that is in our joint interests, as opposed to being told to do something or being restricted from doing something else. Now, the second point is there are a series of steel and aluminum related. By the way, if you do that, though, you should have an integrated market. In other words, the tariff level that you apply from Canada into the United States, because America wants to tariff everybody on everything, but the tariff level you apply should be clearly the lowest. It shouldn't be the same as other people. It should clearly be the lowest because you have this added market protection. That's part of the negotiation. We weren't satisfied. Ultimately, where on steel, aluminum, and related products, so-called derivative products, think HVAC systems, nuts and bolts, anything that's Bombardier products, Bombardier recreational products. There wasn't enough movement. Then there's a separate issue, and I'll just stop with a sentence here, which was language which...
Yeah, that right there is exactly the way, make oil green by taxing the hell out of it. That's how you make oil green, right? Tax it, carbon tax it, and then you make it green. Build a windmill and, have some carbon credit scheme for the guy that builds the windmill so that the guy that produces oil has to pay that carbon tax credit over the guy with the windmill. And that makes the oil green, and makes oil more competitive in the world market. Yeah, that's the way this guy thinks, I agree with what you're saying there, Addy.
Suggested restrictions in terms of our ability to execute trade deals, which would always be unacceptable to this government.
Follow up.
What do you think their goal was there? What were they trying to do? And if I could just...
He should be riding in an electric airplane, as far as I'm concerned.
You can ask the first, not double follow-up. Since you asked, could you ask? I'm going to say, no, you can't ask 3 questions. Look, sorry, now I've forgotten the first part of your question.
Why do you think oil, or not oil, but milk, cheese, and dairy products, all that stuff is so expensive in Canada? Because of the frickin' dairy cartel. There's a cartel that props up the price, only lets certain farms into the whole thing. It costs, like I've seen numbers. It costs like, a lot of money for any farmer to get involved and be able to sell into that cartel. They limit how much that you actually produce. I've seen videos where farmers are pouring their milk down the drain because they produce too much milk and they can't sell it because they have quotas, limits on the amount of milk that they can actually produce, because you don't want to flood the market with too much product and cause the price to go down. Oh, no. Let's make sure that the average consumer pays through the nose for everything with dairy in Canada.
Trying to get us gain more control
Don't
over
allow
our
the
trade.
Americans
why are
into
they
the
trying
market.
to? Why are they trying to do it? It's a power play. It's a power play, and becomes a question of sovereignty. Look, let's take a big step back. And this is what is unfortunate about the situation we're in. We're here for the right reason, but it's unfortunate. Canada, America, and our G7 partners, we think about a lot of issues the same way. We're concerned about excess capacity in non-market economies.
But that's part of the deal that they're working on. You've heard Trump. Trump wants access to the Canadian dairy market. There's a limit on the amount of milk, for example, and dairy products that America can sell to Canada. And then after that, Canada has a 400% tariff on excess goods that they produce. Big D says America has a dairy cartel also. That's why they want to flood the Canadian market. Hey, may very well be, but they want access to, hey, the more that they can sell around the world, that's good. And we should allow those products to come into Canada so that it will actually cause our market prices to lower. Why should we be paying such propped up prices for dairy prices in Canada? All it's doing is it's giving the cartel in Canada more money. Cartels are not good. They're not good at all. They fix the price of the items and make sure that the people that are involved all make a whole bunch of money off of the backs of the poor little guy like you and I.
We care deeply about forced labor, child labor. We want it, and I'll take that second example where absolutely, do we want to cooperate? Do we want to share information? We want to align our approaches and our implementation of those approaches. And was that?
Yeah, well, I'm sure that the deal is not about child anything. It's about products, and that I don't think that those kind of products are on the table.
Potentially part of this deal? Absolutely. There's a host of other things where absolutely we want to work together. But
a train heat pump
when it moves into
subsidiary
restrictions
of Brookfield
and using
exactly
Canada effectively as more leverage.
You get a free one
America,
from the Mark Carney government.
Canadians wouldn't accept that. We're a proud, independent country. We've got the right values. We'll make our decisions about who we want to trade with and how.
You're calling me a scammer, Big D. What about Carney? Like, is he not a scammer for everything that he's doing? He's scamming Canadians for so many different things. Every time he stands in front of a podium announcing another investment. Oh, we're going to invest $2 billion in heat pumps or something, give away free heat pumps. Who makes heat pumps? Oh, Train. Oh, who's Train? Oh, a subsidiary of Brookfield. Oh, yeah. Who's the scammer here? Is it little old me pointing out what's going on in Canada, or is it the bigwigs here? Come on.
And including on how we work with the United States and other partners. Thank you.
You don't know how low the price could actually be if there was competition. There is no competition for dairy products in Canada.
From the National Post.
Competition
The
lowers
government
prices.
to date seems, at least publicly, to have been very reluctant to wield critical minerals and energy as a weapon as part of this trade war. Is that going to change now? Are those on the table?
And the Canadian government keeps giving literally millions of dollars to these guys that want to open up battery production plants in Canada, which is the worst investment ever, because every time they do that, these plants go bankrupt, broke or whatever, or they sell them off for $1 to somebody else, and the Canadian government is just left hanging with the taxpayers footing the bill. Like, they should stay out of high technology like that, and if it's a good thing, it should make money all on its own, and it shouldn't need a government subsidy. Stop subsidizing these high-tech companies with big grandiose ideas that end up going bankrupt in a year. Like, it's unbelievable. The government is so stupid, and it's our tax money that they're throwing down the toilet.
We have a range of other options to protect our industry. First and foremost, what are we looking to do with our counter tariffs? It's to protect industries that are disadvantaged by the American trade action. So we start with that. And then we think about matching in ways that have the least negative impact on Canadians. We don't like doing these, but in this environment, it makes sense. One of the things
I'm glad you don't support Carney.
I'm going to answer your question this way. One of the things that has happened over the course of the last 12, 18 months is that we have considerably ramped up development of critical minerals. Without a doubt, I can't put a precise number on it, but much less of that development has been
Exactly. You liberals voted for this guy, and you're getting exactly what you voted for, a slap in the face. and you're going to lose your job too on top of it. He said that he's going to the government came out with a thing saying, well, we've got you covered because if you lose your job, don't worry about it. We've got some government money from the rest of the taxpayers that are going to support you being on welfare. Like, that's what this guy is actually doing here when he says he's going to help the Canadian workers.
Related to the United States than it would have been if we were not having these trade issues. It is clear to Canadians the value of diversifying our partnerships. And it's clear to Canadians that, I'll say something, it's clear to Canadians that a pipeline to Asia that exports oil to Asia, or an LNG facility that exports.
I don't talk nonsense. What do you mean? I don't care why Canada invested in battery plants. It was a bad idea. It was a bad idea. It was like Canada was pushing this, oh, well, you have to buy an electric vehicle, and all these electric vehicles, we're going to be all electric by 2030, and you better buy an electric car. They propagandized that whole thing with the electric vehicles and pushed that whole agenda. And Canadians didn't want that. Yeah, there are some people that bought electric cars, you know, the elite people with lots of money that had lots of money to throw away and thought that they were saving the planet by buying an electric vehicle. But its time was not there. Its time had not come. And, you know, why do governments have to give subsidies to people to buy an electric vehicle? Because people won't buy them otherwise. It's pretty simple. But you don't do that. We should never have done that. Why should I subsidize? I drive a gas car. Why should my tax money be used to subsidize some rich guy that wants to buy a frickin' $100,000 Tesla, right? Because he thinks he wants to save the planet because of guys like this here. You know, like, it's ridiculous. You wasted a whole bunch of taxpayer money, and you're still wasting taxpayer money subsidizing people buying electric shit. And it goes obsolete so fast. These battery plants go obsolete like crazy. The technology that they're trying to build is perfect today, but in 6 months, it's freaking obsolete. That's why these battery plants go bust. And people aren't buying the vehicles, right? If they're not buying the vehicles, then stuff changes. Trump came right away. The Democrats said everyone has to buy an electric vehicle. Trump got in and said, no, I don't think so. We're going to remove those subsidies on electric cars, and you can buy whatever the hell you want. And honestly, you should let the marketplace decide what the hell people want. If people want to buy electric cars, let them buy electric cars. If they want to buy a gas car or a hydrogen car or an air car or whatever the hell kind of car they want, let people make their own decisions on what they want to do. You don't let the government, you know, people get into government thinking, oh, we're going to save the world, we're going to save the planet, and we'll just tax the hell out of everyone and make everyone drive an electric car because we want to save the frickin' planet. That, you know, hey, maybe they were elected, and people that elected them, the liberal side of the fence, want to save the planet by electing these people, but all it's doing is harm to the whole world. It's doing harm to our economies, harm to the people, and I have a golf cart, an electric golf cart. Okay, fine. You know, and I bought an electric because it's all I need. I can plug it in and I don't have to put gas in it. But I don't have an electric car because it's not suitable for what I do and where I go, right? I go to places where there's not going to be easy places to recharge. Like I made a trip into the interior of the Rocky Mountains up where there's no cell service, there's no places to plug in your vehicle, and even where there is a gas station, it's still $2.50 a liter. You know, but at least there's a gas station, whatever, where you can fill up your car, and your car can drive the 500 kilometers through areas like that. You know, there are places where electric cars don't work well. And in rural, anytime you get out of a major city in Canada, that's the kind of a place where electric cars don't work all that well. Just saying.
LNG to Asia is more valuable than just the dollar value because it helps diversify our economy, our partnership. It makes us less dependent on the United States, less.
Yeah.
I'll just state the
how can you sell natural gas or oil to other countries when you say cap on natural gas, cap on oil, cap on pipelines, cap on ships being able to load anything on the coast? That's what the government, what the Liberal government has done in Canada, put caps and shut down all that stuff. And now he's going, oh, well, we need to diversify by selling more stuff elsewhere. Yeah, well, you don't do that by putting caps and preventing shit to happen. That's what the government is doing. These guys are like talking through their whatever, and you know, it's like a complete turnaround from everything that they've done. It's like, oh, we have to do a whole bunch of shit that we've shut down. Get rid of those bills. Get rid of the Bill 69 and stuff like that, where you're preventing pipelines from even being built. Get rid of those bills preventing ships from loading on the coast. Get rid of those bills putting caps on oil production in Alberta. You know, how can you build a new pipeline when you're saying, well, we're limiting the amount of oil? And you've actually, with these carbon taxes, you've actually prevented companies from opening up new mines up in the oil sands because they look at the carbon capture, the carbon prices, and the industrial carbon taxing that's going on, and they go, well, we're not going to open up a new mine because it's not profitable. We'll have to sell our oil for $10 above the barrel price, and who's going to buy that? Nobody's going to buy it. So why even open up a mine? All this carbon taxing shit, all it does is just put a cap on oil, and hey, people don't produce more oil. It's pretty simple. The government, they're like the worst possible thing for jobs in Canada, especially in Alberta. And that's the reason I'm flying this flag behind me. We need Alberta independence. We need out of Canada because of bullshit like this guy here.
Obvious there. So I'm putting that in, I'm taking your question transparently and turning it to the positive of how we act to build out this as opposed to pulling relationships that already exist, and restraining them. But, we'll see.
Last follow-up, dernière question.
Probably double barrel it because it's the last one. But first, do you plan on? I know.
I can't now. You're
squeezing water out of my mouth.
Tom tried that. It's
do you plan on reviving certain measures eliminated as what previous concessions, the digital service services?
Digital service tax, yeah. That's another kick in the teeth to Trump there, that whole digital service tax. Hey, electric golf carts. The town here, Sylvan Lake, where I am at, allows electric golf carts here. And it's the first, well, other than being like on a trailer park or something like that, like an enclosed place, where they allow golf carts. I had one there, but they allow it right in the town here. And honestly, they should allow electric golf carts in every city in North America. They would be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then you could have your little electric golf cart whenever you want to go down to the food store to buy some food, or you want to go, somewhere that's, let's say, within 10 kilometers of where you live, right? And you wouldn't have to use your gas guzzler car. You could have your gas guzzler for when you want to go out of town or go on trips or, places like that. But otherwise, you don't need a big car. Just a little electric golf cart is all you need for getting around, for doing a little bit of quick shopping and stuff like that. It is the best thing since sliced bread. I love my little electric golf cart. It's great.
Tax, the U.S. streaming payments for CanCon, for example, those measures. And why does it feel like today Mark Carney is going to war, trade war? The tone.
Because we're
mine
attacked.
has lithium.
You're at war when you get attacked. We got attacked. U.S. put 50%. We waited until the United States decided to actually implement these so-called 338 tariffs. That's fine. We've got the reserves. We got the resilience. We've got the plan. We've got the focus. We will respond. We're going to focus on what we can control. We're going to build.
Yeah, they're okay for the summer, but I don't know about winter.
In terms of, let me say this, in terms of measures and tax and others.
Although I will say, my golf cart will have diminished range in the winter, but it does have traction type tires and it's 4-wheel drive. So I think it will probably work in the winter, but just be limited in range. I don't know. We'll see.
We are constantly looking at our tax system, how we can make it as fair as possible, shift the burden to those who are most able to pay, and in a way that incentivizes investment and entrepreneurship, right? We are, all elements of the following: build Canada strong. It's not just like it is the plan. And so
this whole thing with happening on a Friday, where they're walking away from the whole thing happening on a Friday. News like this gets buried in the news cycle, like on a Saturday and Sunday, so that people don't actually see what happened. Carney failed immensely on this deal. It was a complete failure. Walking away from the talks and not making a deal was an absolute failure. And this whole thing is, because it happened on a Friday, is absolutely getting buried in the weekend news. And all the people that voted for the Liberals hopefully won't find out about it. Oh yeah, because you wouldn't want to make your voter base turn against you. But if I would hope that Carney is losing popularity based on his actions or inactions of being able to come up with some kind of a deal with his good man Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Get on your knees, Carney. Get on your knees. Yeah.
We want builders to put money to work in new businesses, in big infrastructure. We want them to put to work in Canada, and that makes it strong in ways for all. Il faut avoir une question en français, si je peux. Oui.
En français, si je peux vous demander de répéter, est-ce que nous sommes maintenant en guerre commerciale totale?
Ce qui est évident, il y a une nouvelle attaque des Américains sur le Canada. Alors, il y a une attaque, on attaque dans une guerre. C'est pas bonne chose de tout. Ce n'est pas notre choix. Nous étions là. Nous étions prêts d'avoir un accord global, équitable pour les deux pays. Nous étions prêts d'avoir. Il semblait que nous soyons prêts d'avoir un accord global et équitable avec les Américains. Mais ils ont changé, y compris les menaces contre la langue française et la culture québécoise, la culture canadienne. C'est pas acceptable, jamais acceptable. À cause de ça, c'est le fin de cette étape des négociations.
Mais aujourd'hui, où va nous mener cette escalade? Pardon, Boris, pour le devoir. Où va nous mener cette escalade de tarifs d'une part, tarifs de l'autre part, crise économique?
I'd like to see that.
Voilà une réplique du côté américain qui va nous amener à des difficultés économiques au Canada. Vous êtes prêts à ça?
Oui, le Canada oui, nous sommes prêts.
And the golf carts can go like 50 kilometers an hour. They can go 50K an hour. Like that's about the top speed on a golf cart. You know, they do have them throttled back in areas wherever you're driving. Like here, mine is throttled back to 40 kilometers an hour because that's the only place where I can drive them in Sylvan Lake. And pretty much the speed limit in Sylvan Lake is 40 kilometers an hour, except on the outskirts of the city, it gets up to 60 kilometers an hour. But they also limit the roads that I can drive it on, and you can't drive on roads that are 60 kilometers an hour. So that's all you do is you say, okay, you can have a golf cart in any city, but you limit them on, let's say, roads that are 50 kilometers an hour or less, you know. And, hey, that's generally around the area where you live anyways, so it's probably okay.
Tout ce qu'il faut pour protéger nos travailleurs, nos entreprises. Nous avons la résilience, nous avons une grande marge de manœuvre budgétaire, nous avons des partenaires à travers le monde. On va augmenter nos partenariats à travers le monde avec l'Inde, l'ASEAN, tous les autres, beaucoup d'autres pays. Oui, le Canada est fort et le Canada est prêt. Le Canada est uni et
And the other thing with Danielle Smith is I absolutely do not want Danielle Smith to sign any kind of build a pipeline, but we'll sign a contract with Brookfield or one of those carbon tax, carbon credit companies, right, to get into a deal with the carbon credit system that will literally cost billions of dollars to get out of that deal. If Alberta becomes an independent country, that's the whole thing. Is he's coming in with ironclad contracts that he wants Alberta to sign before any kind of a pipeline is built, right? And those contracts are going to be hell to get out of. And I hope like hell that Danielle Smith does not sign any of those contracts with Carney, because that is the biggest load of bullshit ever. Anything to do with carbon taxes, carbon credits, all of that stuff. Just, man, don't build a pipeline. If you have to go in with those carbon credits and carbon all this and carbon that, Just say no. Hey, we'll have to wait until you're out of power, until the carbon shit is all gone, and then you'll see where we'll build a pipeline. We don't need any of that crap. Like, really, honestly, it's really terrible for Alberta. It's really, for living here and seeing what the hell is going on. All it is a grab of money. It's a taxation of the pipeline, of the oil, and it's so that the money can flow somehow back to Ottawa.
Bye-bye. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you. This puts an end to our press conference. C'est ce qui met fin à notre conférence de presse. Merci.
Okay, and that's it for the press conference as he cuts out of there. So hopefully we've heard everything we need to hear. So that was it. So, we'll see what happens. Right now, Carney was on his knees begging Trump for some kind of a deal. Some kind of a deal where we'd have free trade with the United States, and it turns out that at the end of the day, we're not going to have free trade with the United States, and we're basically pretty much screwed like the rest of the countries around the world. We're going to have some kind of a deal where Trump gets free trade into Canada, and on the other hand, he'll have tariffs on products coming from Canada to the United States, and I don't think there's any way of getting out of it. You know, you may as well go to the table, work out the very best deal that you can, and make the deal. Because not making the deal is actually worse for Canada, because we're just going to be taxed, or not taxed, but tariffed 50% on a whole bunch of goods. And guess what? Americans are not going to buy those goods when they see that they have to pay a 50% tax on them, right? So it'll be pretty much barring those products from the American market is what it will end up being. And that's where we're at right now when Carney doesn't make a deal and just leaves it at a 50% tax. Hey, so that's basically it. That's basically it for the show. Thanks a lot, everyone, for sticking with us. It would have been nice to get at least one super chat, okay, so that our good friend Big D could say that I'm scamming you, but we didn't get one super chat here, so I'm kind of sad about that. Big D, you're the one that should super chat the stream here. We'd love a super chat from you. I'd like to scam you if nobody else. But otherwise, take care, everyone. Stay out of trouble. If you can't stay out of trouble, well, don't blame me. And I got to go outside and have some fun. Sylvan Lake, this is where it's at. Woohoo! See you guys later. Bye-bye for now.
We're done with the feds, breaking free from their reins. Alberta freedom, ringing loud and true. Sovereignty calling, independence coming through. No more woke liberalism, stealing our way of life. Albertans stand tall, cutting loose from the strife.
And thanks a lot, all 160 people that are out there watching on the different platforms. Thanks a lot, everyone. Whatever platform you're on, make sure you sub up to the platform. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a wave. Give us whatever it is on that platform. And we appreciate you being part of the Tommy Temper Show.
From the prairie to the peaks, where the eagles soar high. We're sick of the traitors calling us traitors, that's a lie. Equalization's a thief, stealing our hard-earned pay, while they push their agendas, turning night into day. Beef ranchers and farmers, grain silos stand proud. Oil rigs turning profits under Alberta's cloud. No more begging for ports, landlocked but strong we stand. We'll negotiate our future with the world in our hand. Alberta freedom, ringing loud and true. Sovereignty calling, independence coming.
easy. Better late than never.
We're building our nation forevermore. They say it's illegal, but self-determination's all right. Like Ukraine from the Soviets, we'll fight through the night. No more sending our wealth to fund their endless schemes. Our pensions rising, fulfilling our dreams. Tired of the liberals, their rules and their games. Our burdens awakening, falling out on Canola fields yellow, beef herds grazing free, oil sands fueling futures as far as the eye can see. We're Albertans first, with hearts full of fire. Separation's the answer, lifting us higher. No more being the wallet for a broken confederation. Freedom's our birthright, our declaration. Alberta freedom, ringing loud and true. Sovereignty calling, independence coming through. No more woke liberalism, stealing our way of life. Albertans stand tall, cut loose from the strife. Rocky Mountains watching as we claim our own land. Freedom for our families with the rifle in hand. Alberta freedom, let the anthems roar. We're building our nation forevermore. Alberta freedom, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And with that, you too have a good day.